Well, damn, guys, I just realized something. I was recording in 480p for the past couple videos. That sucks a lot. I was trying to set up, I was testing out if I could record another game, and I decided to move it down to 480p. That kind of sucks. So these past couple videos, or these videos that I may be uploading next, are going to be a little bit low quality. Sorry for that. I thought it was going to be. I just totally forgot about it. Anyway, so I've gone ahead and I've created a class or a deck for each class for GvG with the GvG cards, just to give an idea of kind of what I think some of the decks will be looking like. And admittedly, these aren't going to be obviously finely tuned decks. There's not going to be like, oh, well, this card I might be overvaluing it right now. I may not be playing it whenever it comes to the ladder and when it gets onto the game. So I've gone ahead and I've created kind of different variations of decks based on what I've played in the past and what I kind of would like to include. So this is a Druid deck that I've kind of shaped up, or I've kind of made up, and I like kind of some of the things going on in it. So I'll talk about the GvG cards and why I'm including them. First, Grove Tender. I'm going to go ahead and just go through all of them first and talk about which ones, each one's individually, kind of why I added them. So we have two of Grove Tender, a Malorn, Tree of Life, two Mechanical Yeti, an Antique Healbot, a Paladin Sky Golem, and Trogazor, the Earthinator. So I'll go ahead and talk about Grove Tender. It's a pretty strong... Okay, so I guess I should talk about the rest of the deck. So the deck itself is kind of based on what used to be like the Druid mid-range, or not really mid-range, but it's kind of like the late-game ramp Druid deck that wanted to play a whole bunch of fatties and just win through a lot of value with no combo. It was just a value deck. So I've gone ahead and I've kind of just taken the shell that I used to run with, like Innervate, Wild Growth, all the cards that you see in Druid deck staples, like Double Ancient of Lore, Sonaria, stuff like that, and then I've now added in the GvG cards. So I'll talk about Grove Tender first, kind of what I think it adds to the deck and why I think it's a good enough card to include two of. Like I said, this is all baseless predictions based on what I think rather than what I've played with. So bear in mind this is all kind of speculation and is subject to change, definitely. So Grove Tender is an interesting card. It has the same power and toughness as Keeper of the Grove, but it has a different obviously different effects. It's mutually beneficial to both you and your opponent for playing Grove Tender. However, in the right situation, whenever you're wild growthing into Grove Tender and you want to ramp up, Grove Tender is going to give you the ability to get ahead of your opponent and stay ahead. The second mode, each player draws a card, will be very good for whenever you're late in the game and you, let's say, aren't drawing your Ancient of Lores, or you've already used both your lores. Grove Tender can give you some more gas, and it does give your opponent a card, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it can definitely be used to gain you some cards. Let's talk about Malorn in this deck. This is I can't talk right now. Jesus Christ. Malorn is a great example of a card that a deck like this wants to be able to play. It has recursion, and it's just really strong because it has a big body, and it's something that is valuable to ramp into. It's better than an Ancient of War, honestly, in terms of stats. Like Ancient of War can give you 15, this gives you 16 points worth of stats, and it's it's a little bit more front heavy. What's so great about this card is how it is resilient to removal at some point. It's going to come back. Like if you play him and it dies, you can play it again later on in the game. So the long games that this type of deck will be wanting to play, Malorn is going to give a lot of value to that. Now, I don't know if this will be better than Ragnaros in a deck like this, but I think it's definitely going to take the Ragnaros slot currently. So yeah, Tree of Life is pretty much why I think this deck will work with a Malorn. It resets the game, essentially, for you. Like, full health is extremely relevant for a Druid to be at. This will also be great to ramp into if you're playing against an aggressive deck. If you can ramp up to 9, or you can innervate out a Tree of Life, or double innervate or something like that, a Tree of Life, which is going to be pretty common. There might be a Nourish version of this deck as well as the Grove Tender and Wild Growth to try and ramp up to the super late game as fast as you possibly can. And Tree of Life might be able to be the stabilizer card. So it's for stabilization purposes and resetting the game. Let's talk about the neutral cards. I think a lot of these are going to be seen throughout every single deck. Some of them are kind of just included, like like Paladin Sky Golem. I don't know if I'm overvaluing it, undervaluing it. I've played with Sneed's Old Shredder in Arena, which is on part 2 of the Arena run, and I got a Thermoplug, which is the new 9-mana legendary that summons a Leper Gnome whenever an opponent minion has died. So I've seen value in these, like the style of card this is, and so this is the only one that I'm not really convinced on. So Mechanical Yeti is taking the spot of Chillwind Yeti. Mechanical Yeti is basically a better version of Chillwind Yeti. Spare parts are nice. They're not really great cards, but they are pick you ups. They're going to help you out in a little bit of ways, and it's a mech. So if I wanted to include any mech synergy, the Yeti will help with that. So yeah. Antique Healbot, remember I was talking about how Trio Life resets the game for us? And against aggro, currently on the ladder, Antique Healbot would be an insane card, because while I think, what's it called? The 3-mana Heal 8, it is, I used to have all these card names like by heart, I can't quite remember what it's called, but the current spell that heals you for 8 points of health for 3 mana, the Druid has access to. I think this is better. This is like a super Earthen Ring Farseer, and we'll see it be played in a lot more decks. But I like this card because it will help you against aggro. Talk about Golem a lot, and Trogzor the Earthenator is like a super Loatheb. Okay, we have Loatheb here, which is already a great card against spell-heavy decks, but Trogzor will be very key against other spell-based decks, and so yeah, I think he's a pretty powerful card. And I think it'll be included in a lot of control-based strategies moving forward. So this is what I've come up with so far. I think this deck it's fairly decent. There's obviously tweaks and stuff, like 2 Azure Drakes maybe not be optimal. Maybe I don't want to play Cairn or something like that. But this is on the right track. I think in terms of being on track, I might be 2 or 3 cards off of what a Druid deck might actually come out with. And maybe Grove Tender is garbage. We'll have to see. It's just kind of one of those things that I've been feeling out. So this is the Warlock deck, and it is based off of the Demon deck, the Demon Lock deck that's currently on ladder. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about like the Demon Lock deck, which if you haven't seen it before, it's a deck that revolves around using Void Collar and other demons to get immense value, as well as like Void Collar and Void Terror to eat your own dudes on board, and eventually, getting out Lord Jaraxxus and winning in the late game using Siphon Soul, all these removal cards and stuff to get you to that point. Most decks include a Faceless Manipulator and the Ironbeak, Ancient Watchers, and the Rubian Eggs, Harvest Golem. This is pretty standard stuff right here. All these cards are pretty much 2-ofs in just about every single Demon Lock deck that I've seen, as well as a Faceless Manipulator. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the Goblin versus Gnomes cards. Dark Bomb is going to be the replacement to Soulfire. I don't think 1 mana for 4 damage is worth it whenever you're discarding a card. This is a very solid card. It's basically a Lightning Bolt in this game, except you pay all your mana up front rather than over 2 turns, which I think is more relevant. So you look at Lightning Bolt, honestly it says 2 mana, deal 3, but you pay 1 mana this turn, 1 mana next turn. Dark Bomb is just all that cost up front. I think it's a perfectly fine, well-costed card. It's balanced. Floating Watcher is another addition. I looked at this card and I thought, wow, this would be really good in a Demon Lock deck. Not necessarily Hand Lock, but Demon Lock, because you're taking a lot of damage. You can afford to run Hellfire, which I don't actually have on my list, which I'm going to certainly be including whenever I take this deck and play it on ladder in the future. But I think this is going to be a pretty important card to have. It's a unique effect, and it can grow out of control. So definitely, and I'm also missing Molten Giants. I'm missing a couple of cards in this one. I think this one's a little less tuned. We got some tweaking to do for sure with this one, but I think this is on the right track once again. Anima Golem is pretty strong in this deck because we're going to be constantly having a lot of minions whenever we have things like the Rubian Egg, Harvest Golem. They're all sticky minions, and then you play an Anima Golem on top of that, and the Anima Golem won't just kill itself, but there's a chance that it will, and maybe this will be the card to cut, but I'm not too sure. I think it's pretty solid in this deck, though. And Mal'Ganis, I think he is going to make Demon Lock really good. Like I was saying before in the card preview, if you take away the line that says your other demons have +2/+2, I think this card is already insane. But you add that on top of that, and I think he's just he's just very strong. Okay, and if you can get him and Jiraxis out, your hero is immune, and so you can just attack for 3 damage for free, absolutely free. While tap, well, actually you don't tap anymore, but then you can spawn just 6/6s like crazy. This guy is crazy good. And talk about Fel Reaver. This might not be the card either for this deck, but since we are playing Watchers and Silence effects, Fel Reaver being silenced is a 5-mana 8/8, and maybe it's a 7-mana 8/8. In either case, it's pretty solid. I like this card a lot. Moving on to Priest. So this is a variant of Priest where I've kind of looked at what was already working for Control Priest and added in the new cards. So there's not really too much different. There's a few cards different, obviously, because I had to make cut and room for for the new cards. Paladin Shredder, probably not going to be in the deck. I was like, I don't really know what to add at this point, so I just kind of threw these in there. I don't actually think this is a very good card for Priest. And I think in other decks it would be really good, but I don't think it's a Priest card. Just kind of just disregard the slot. I didn't really know what to add in at this point, so I put him in. So ignore him. Trogzor is also going to make an inclusion in this deck, I believe. It's, Priest has a hard time against spell-heavy decks like Miracle Rogue, and if Miracle Rogue is in any capacity still around, which I don't think it will be, but let's say that it is, Trogzor is going to help with that. Shrinkmeister will help. That's why I'm including 1 Pain, so you can Shrinkmeister and kill with Pain. You can also Shrinkmeister and then, still with a Cabal Shadow Priest. So we have some good synergies here. Vol'jin is crazy, and I talked about him being probably the strongest class legendary, and after some more thought, I would have to agree Vol'jin is still the best class legendary, and it's not really that close. I think Mal'Ganis is second, with the Iron Juggernaut and Mylorn being tied for like 3rd and 4th, and then after that it gets kind of bad. But Vol'jin's really good. Not really too much to say about this one. So the common theme so far is I try to look at like the best class cards and build a deck around it. I tried to build around the Rogue class card, which was the Trade Prince Gallywix, the legendary, and I found it was just really, really bad and hard and clunky to really play with because it's like, or to really just build a deck around because it's like it relies on your opponent doing things. So I don't really consider that card to be very good whatsoever. So this is a mech deck, and it revolves around just dumping your hand, refilling it as much as you can with Jeeves, getting cards back, sacking dudes, trying to get Murmuron's head activated. And so there's a lot of cool things going on with this deck. After looking at it and thinking about it for some time, I don't think SI7 Agent is actually too good of a card in this deck, but I'll go ahead and talk about the GvG cards, starting with Goblin Auto Barber. In this deck, you're going to be having a weapon a lot of the time, especially when we're playing 2 of Cogmaster's Wrench, plus the hero power, and we're also playing an Assassin's Blade. Auto Barber is going to give a lot of value. He's a 2-mana 3/2 with a pretty good upside. I like him. Cogmaster's Wrench is pretty much it's a fiery war axe with 1 extra charge for this deck because we're going to constantly be having mechs. Almost every single minion in the deck is a mech. So Iron Sensei, I talked about this card a lot, being able to enable mech-based strategies, and this will definitely be a key card. Even though it's a 2/2, so it can get killed rather easily. Kind of overlooked that. I didn't really talk about the 2 health being relevant. The fact that it can buff up your mechs, even when the turn it comes down into play, it's pretty potent, and I think it'll be a pretty nice card. Clockwork Gnome is a solid 1-drop, so he helps the curve, and him dying isn't that bad either. Plus him getting buffed with Iron Sensei or something like that is still pretty nice. Cogmaster will also just benefit a ton from having a mech on the battlefield. So if you can go turn 1, Clockwork Gnome, and then coin out a Cogmaster, you're looking in pretty good shape. Knife Juggler for the obvious reasons. Mech Warper, make sure mech's cheaper, we love that. A Hanso Meccano. The potential upside of this card, Wind Fury or Divine Shield are both really, really insane for this deck. Taunt, not so much, but if you can get either Wind Fury or Divine Shield on a board that has a couple of minions, this guy gets ridiculous value. Jeeves, you're going to need him. You're going to need the card draw, and he's going to be the source of card draw in this deck. So unfortunately, there's not really much card draw. I might have to come back and look at what other options I have. But Jeeves is pretty much the best one. Mechanical Yeti, we talked about him being very strong in the Druid deck. I think he's still going to be strong here, especially in a mech-based deck. Junkbot, I think, is actually a pretty strong card, but I don't like him as a 2-of. He's kind of a bad card as a 5-mana 1/5, but he gains insane value once you start trading your minions or your other minions get wiped out or whatever. Junkpot's still alive. He does a lot of stuff for you. Murmuron's Head is the ultimate like finisher. If you can pull it off, you attack for 16 damage on your next turn, which is ridiculous. And yeah, so I think this deck is also once again in the right direction, but I'm not sure if it's refined well enough. So we're gonna go here. This is a warrior deck. Now I know what you're thinking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 legendaries is a lot of legendaries. Yes, it is. This is essentially current warrior control, but with a couple of additions like Bouncing Blade, Crush, Iron Juggernaut, and Trogzor. I think the rest of these cards are basically going to stay the same. The reason being Trogzor is ridiculously strong, and I think he's going to be played in a lot of decks, so there's no reason why he doesn't see play in Warrior. Iron Juggernaut is retarded. Crush is an insanely good removal ability, and if you're going to have damage minions, which is likely, it's a 3-mana removal spell, which is just crazy good. It's non-conditional removal, which makes it pretty good, but I don't think it'll be good enough to include 2 of. It's still expensive, but I like it as a 1-of for sure. Bouncing Blade is another good 1-of, because if you're getting rushed by a zoo-based deck or something, you play Bouncing Blade and it goes absolutely ballistic, might chop up a whole lot of minions and then eventually kill off one. I like it. Alright, so this is the Hunter deck. This is, like I was saying before, I tried to build the decks around the class Legendary, and I wanted to build a deck around Gazrilla, and so I thought, well, Gazrilla's not really a, aggro card, but it's a really, really, really good control card. So I thought, let's build a control deck. And I talked about some of these cards not being so good, and then I thought about them in conjunction with this deck, and they suddenly became a lot better. So imagine, we're playing, kill commands, obviously, Unleash the Hound, Deadly Shot, 1 of Deadly Shot, 1 of Explosive Shot, our removal spells in Hunter. King of Beast is something that I really underrated. Once again, he's a 5-mana 2/6 with, I believe, gain +2 attack for each beast. Let's see if he's on here. It says he's not found. Let's see. Gain +1 attack for each other beast you have on battle cry. He's also a taunter. I thought that's a good card. It's a good card whenever you have a beast-heavy deck. We're gonna want the double silence effects for whatever is running around. Lost Tall Strider is just a good beast. He's probably the best beast for mana cost that there is in the game. And Sludge Belcher for just control-based reasons. Call Pad, I thought at first garbage, but in a deck that's playing the number of beasts that I am, it might actually be, decent. We're also keeping the Web Spinner, of course. Steam Weedle Sniper is an interesting one, too, that I thought would be nice to be able to use your hero power as like an upgraded mage hero power. And so playing 2 of him seems pretty nice because, well, if you're going to run control, you want to be able to point your hero power at the dead things or the things, the minions that you need to kill. This mage deck I don't really like because I thought about some more ways I can make it better. And so I don't even think any of these neutral cards would be very good in this deck. Actually, maybe Trogs or maybe Paladin Sky Golem. But I thought about it, and I tried to go half mech style. But I thought this would be, it would revolve around Blast Mage and Antonidas, and maybe some mechs. Maybe actually some of these mechs will make it in. Soot Spear is a decent card. I tried to build it around Flame Leviathan, and I just thought this card was just so clunky. It's hard to really do much because it does 2 to yourself and everything on your side of the board, so it's hard to control. I was thinking with Echo of Medivh, it's very possible you could set up a Sorcerer's Apprentice, Antonidas Infinite combo deck. And when I say very possible, I mean there's a chance you can get it to work if you have double Sorcerer's Apprentice Medivh, and then you double Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then you get an Antonidas, and then then you go to Crazy Town. But I don't know if I'm even playing enough spells to make that work. We'll see though. I think this is a loose. This is probably the worst deck that I designed. Maybe not the worst one, but it's really close to the worst one. I think it's going in the right direction though. I played straight up Spider Tank because I thought it'd be good to include in the mech deck, but I don't know. Not really feeling this deck too much. Okay, this is the Paladin deck. I'm gonna talk about this one a little bit, just a little bit in advance because I like kind of where this deck idea is going. Bolvar, I tried to I'm including him, and I don't know if he's going to stay or go or what, but he's not very strong, but he could be given the right situation. So I like Shielded Minibot. I actually think it's a solid mech. Coghammer's really good. Muster for Battle's solid. It interacts with Bolvar. Cobalt Guardian with Shielded Minibot, plus all of our minions being mechs here, will definitely help this Cobalt Guardian gain Divine Shield. That is relevant in a lot of ways. Like him being able to constantly attack for 6 and then play a mech, and then he gets another, or you play a mech, whatever, gets a Divine Shield, hit it, kill something, and then play something and it gets a Divine Shield again. This card is going to be very sticky, I believe, in the right deck. And so if we're playing enough really cheap cards, or cheaper mechs, we can drop 1 or 2 a turn. Now the only thing this deck lacks is a card draw. So I don't know where I'm going to get that from, but we'll think about that as we get closer to as I actually get closer to building this deck. And last but not least is the Shaman deck. I thought this one built itself, so I didn't really have much to do. It's just a Murloc deck. I thought Neptulon is a very good addition. Siltfin Spirit Walker, couldn't say it in the video, is a good inclusion. Excuse me. He's going to help a lot with card draw for Murlocs. And just play all the Murlocs, Knife Jugglers, Jeeves. Just play all of the Murlocs. Well, not all of them. Don't play the 2-mana 3/2/1. Get your Hexes, get your Flame Tongues, get your all that stuff. Lava Burst for Reach. And I think that these are all deck ideas. I think this deck will actually be pretty solid. It might actually see some play in competitive, but we'll see. Anyways, so these are all deck ideas that I've come up with, and I just really want to talk about them. I thought I couldn't really express what I wanted to express in the card preview video, so I decided I wanted to go ahead and just create a video talking about the decks that I had designed and put put some thought into, so that I could potentially come up with some good, interesting ideas. I think by and far some of these decks are a little outlandish and probably won't even be popular decks whenever they come to ladder. However, I think I may have hit the nail on the head with a couple of them. I think particularly this deck is good. I think the Druid deck is on the right track. I think the Demon Lock deck's on the right track, needs a little tweaking. The Priest deck, I don't know. The Rogue deck, I'm not too sure. I think it's decent, but I think the Warrior deck's on the right path. I think the Hunter deck is a little outlandish, we'll see. The Mage deck is complete trash. The Paladin deck might not even be that good. And the Shaman deck, I said, is good. So I think I got it with a majority, but some classes I just don't have much experience with. I think that may come back to hurt me. But anyways, that has been the video. I have made so many videos today, and I'm going to have a lot of content coming out for you guys this week. So I think I'm going to upload this one first, and just so I can continue my GvG card preview. What's coming up after this video will be the first arena run that I've been doing. I've been working on. I've got the draft plus 2 videos of 2 games apiece, so 4 games plus the draft coming up. And yeah, so like always, guys, if you enjoyed this content, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be having a lot of it coming out soon. My dog is... Hello there. Goodness gracious. Like I said, like always, subscribe, like the video, and dislike the video. I don't care. Leave a comment, and I will definitely discuss some things with you. And my dog is wanting attention. Here. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. Alright, guys. See you later.